The sun was setting over the small town of Maplewood, Ohio, casting long shadows across the fields and quiet streets. The air smelled faintly of fresh-cut grass and distant bonfires. It was an ordinary evening until a low hum filled the sky. At first, people thought it was just another airplane passing overhead, but the sound grew louder, deeper, and stranger. Dogs began to bark, and children pointed upward as something enormous descended from the clouds. It wasn't an airplane. What emerged from the sky was unlike anything anyone in Maplewood had ever seen. A sleek silver ship hovered silently above the ground, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. Lights pulsed along its edges, glowing softly in shades of blue and green. For a moment, the entire town stood frozen, staring at the alien vessel, with wide eyes and open mouths. Then a section of the ship opened, revealing 3 figures stepping out into the cool evening air. They were tall, taller than any human, with translucent skin that seemed to glow faintly under the fading sunlight. Their eyes were large and dark, and their movements were graceful yet deliberate. The townsfolk backed away instinctively, unsure whether to feel awe or fear. One of the aliens stepped forward. She, or at least Lucas Bennett assumed it was a she, raised her hand in what looked like a gesture of peace. Her voice didn't come through her mouth, but instead echoed directly inside everyone's minds. "We mean no harm," she said, her words calm and measured. "We seek refuge." Lucas Bennett, a wiry man in his mid-30s with grease-stained hands and a baseball cap pulled low over his forehead, found himself stepping closer. He wasn't sure why. He wasn't exactly brave, but something about the situation felt oddly familiar. Maybe it was because fixing things was his specialty. Whether it was a broken tractor or a busted car engine, Lucas always knew how to make things work again. And now, standing there in front of this strange visitor, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he could help fix whatever problem these aliens had brought with them. Behind him, Emma Dawson, a biologist who taught at the local university, pushed her glasses up her nose and moved closer too. She was curious, her mind already racing with questions. Were they really here for refuge? What kind of world did they come from? And why choose Maplewood of all places? The alien woman introduced herself as Zinara. Through her telepathic communication, she explained that her people had fled their homeworld after centuries of neglect had left it uninhabitable. Pollution, resource depletion, and unchecked greed had turned their once thriving planet into a wasteland. Now desperate and running out of options, they had come to Earth seeking sanctuary. "But why us?" Lucas asked aloud, his voice breaking the tense silence. "Why pick our little town?" Zinara tilted her head slightly as if considering the question. "Your species has shown potential," she replied. "Despite your flaws, you have demonstrated resilience and creativity. We believe you might understand our plight better than others." Emma frowned. "You mean because we've faced similar problems on Earth?" "Yes," Zinara said simply, "though your challenges are not yet as severe as ours became." Her words hung heavy in the air. People shifted uncomfortably, glancing at one another. Everyone knew she was right. Climate change, deforestation, pollution. These were issues humanity had been struggling to address for decades. If the alien story was true, then they weren't so different from humans after all. But not everyone was convinced. Some townsfolk muttered about danger, warning that trusting strangers from space was foolish. Others argued that helping them could bring benefits like access to advanced technology or knowledge. Voices rose and the crowd started to split into factions. Lucas ignored the arguing. His gaze stayed fixed on Zinara. There was something in her expression, a mix of hope and weariness that tugged at him. He'd seen that look before, usually on farmers whose equipment had broken down or neighbors whose homes needed repairs. It was the look of someone carrying a burden too heavy to bear alone. "What do you need from us?" he asked finally, his voice cutting through the noise. Zinara hesitated as if weighing how much to reveal. "Shelter," she said at last. "Food, time to recover. But..." She paused, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "We also wish to learn from you, to understand how your species manages to survive despite its mistakes." Lucas nodded slowly. "Well," he said with a small shrug, "if there's one thing humans are good at, it's making do with what we've got." A ripple of nervous laughter passed through the crowd. Even Zinara's lips curved slightly, though it was hard to tell if she was smiling or merely mimicking the gesture. As night fell, the townsfolk reluctantly agreed to let the aliens stay, for now. Tents were set up near the edge of town, and volunteers brought food and supplies. Lucas and Emma stayed behind to talk more with Zinara and her companions. They learned that the other two aliens were named Kale and Vren, both engineers who had helped design the ship. Like Zinara, they spoke telepathically, their voices calm but tinged with sadness. Throughout the conversation, Lucas kept thinking about what Zinara had said earlier. Her people had destroyed their planet, just like humans were doing to theirs. But there was one key difference. The aliens hadn't tried to fix things until it was too late. That realization gnawed at him. If humans didn't act soon, would they end up like Zinara's people, homeless wanderers begging for mercy? By the time they parted ways for the night, Lucas had made up his mind. Whatever happened next, he wanted to help, not just because it was the right thing to do, but because seeing the aliens' desperation reminded him of something important. Even when the odds seem impossible, giving up isn't an option. As he walked home under the starry sky, Lucas couldn't help but wonder what tomorrow would bring. Would the townsfolk accept the aliens, or would fear drive them apart? And most importantly, could humanity rise to the challenge not just for themselves but for a species that had already lost everything? For now, the answers remained unknown. But one thing was certain: life in Maplewood would never be the same again. The next morning, the town buzzed with whispers about the aliens. Some people were excited, others scared, and a few just wanted everything to go back to normal. Lucas Bennett woke up early, his mind racing with thoughts of Zinara and her plea for help. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just an alien visit. It was a chance to do something meaningful. As he sipped his coffee, staring out at the fields behind his house, he decided to take action. When he arrived at the edge of town where the aliens had set up camp, Emma Dawson was already there. She sat cross-legged on the grass, scribbling notes in a small notebook while watching Kale and Vren inspect their ship. Zinara stood nearby, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon as if she were deep in thought. "Morning," Lucas said, walking over. "You've been busy." Emma looked up and smiled faintly. "Just trying to understand them better. They're fascinating, so advanced, yet so fragile." Lucas nodded. "Yeah, they don't seem like the conquering type." Zinara turned toward them, her expression unreadable. "You wish to speak?" Lucas stepped forward. "Actually, yes. I've been thinking about what you said last night, about your planet being destroyed. It got me wondering, why didn't you try to fix it before it was too late?" Zinara hesitated, her gaze dropping briefly. "We did attempt repairs," she admitted, "but our efforts were insufficient. Our leaders prioritized profit and power over restoration. By the time we realized the extent of the damage, it was irreversible." Emma frowned. "That sounds familiar. Humans have made similar mistakes." "Exactly," Lucas said, his voice firm, "which is why I think we can help." Zinara's eyes widened slightly. "Help? How?" Lucas took a deep breath. "Instead of just giving you shelter here, why don't we work together to repair your world? If you let us see it, maybe we can figure out a way to make it livable again." Emma blinked in surprise. "Lucas, that's ambitious. Do you even know if it's possible?" "We won't know unless we try," he replied. Turning back to Zinara, he added, "I'm not saying it'll be easy, but humans are good at solving problems, especially when we put our minds to it." For a long moment, Zinara said nothing. Her silence stretched out, heavy and uncertain. Finally, she spoke. "Your offer is unexpected. No species has ever proposed such assistance before, but She paused, glancing at Kale and Vren. Our homeworld is dangerous. The environment is toxic, and many hazards remain. Are you truly willing to risk your lives for strangers? Lucas grinned. Strangers who came to us for help? Yeah, I'd say it's worth a shot. Emma hesitated, then nodded. If it's scientifically feasible, I'm in too. We could collect data, analyze soil samples, study the atmosphere, maybe find ways to reverse the damage. Kyle exchanged a glance with Vren, their expressions wary. Our leaders abandoned that planet. Long ago, Kale said telepathically. They deemed it beyond saving. Maybe they gave up too soon, Lucas countered. Humans haven't always made the best decisions either, but we keep trying. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective. Zanera seemed to consider this carefully. After a few moments, she sighed. Very well. I will allow you to visit our world. But know this. It is far more perilous than anything you've encountered. If you choose to proceed, you must follow our guidance without question. Lucas and Emma exchanged a quick glance. Neither of them spoke, but the determination in their eyes said enough. Part 3. The moment Lucas and Emma stepped onto the alien planet, they felt the weight of its devastation. The air was thick and heavy, carrying a faint metallic tang that made their throats itch despite the protective masks they wore. The ground beneath their boots crunched unnaturally, like brittle glass mixed with sand. Everything around them seemed dead. No plants, no animals, just endless stretches of cracked earth and eerie silence. Zainara led the way, her glowing form casting a faint light in the dim environment. Kale and Vren followed closely behind, scanning the area with handheld devices that hummed softly. Lucas adjusted the strap of his toolbox, feeling oddly out of place yet determined. Beside him, Emma clutched her sensor equipment tightly, her eyes darting everywhere as she tried to take in the overwhelming sight. This place, Emma murmured, her voice muffled by her mask. It's like Earth after 100 nuclear wars. Lucas nodded grimly. Yeah, but we've got to start somewhere. Zainara glanced back at them. This region was once fertile, she said, her telepathic voice tinged with sadness. Rivers flowed here, forests grew tall. Now it is nothing but ruins. Emma knelt down, scooping up a handful of dirt to examine it. The soil's completely barren, she muttered. No nutrients left. Whatever happened here stripped everything away. Kale pointed toward a jagged structure in the distance. That was one of our cities, he explained. Now it is only rubble. Lucas squinted at the remains. It looked like a graveyard for skyscrapers, twisted metal frames jutting out of the ground like broken bones. We'll need to check it out, he said. Maybe there's something salvageable, tech or materials we can use. Zainara hesitated. Be cautious, these ruins are unstable, and there are creatures. Creatures? Lucas repeated, raising an eyebrow. Vren nodded solemnly. Mutations caused by the toxins. They are aggressive. Emma shuddered. Great. Just what we needed. Despite the warning, the group pressed on. As they approached the ruins, the air grew thicker, and the strange vapors clinging to the ground began to swirl more violently. Emma activated her sensors, which immediately started beeping wildly. High levels of radiation here, she reported, and traces of chemicals I don't recognize. This isn't natural. It's man-made. Or alien-made, Lucas corrected wryly. Zanara lowered her head. You are right. Our industries poisoned this land. We ignored the warnings until it was too late. Lucas didn't respond. He couldn't help but think about how similar this story sounded to humanity's own struggles. Factories spewing smoke, rivers turning black with waste. It wasn't hard to imagine Earth ending up like this if things didn't change. As they entered the crumbling city, Lucas noticed something odd about the buildings. Instead of being constructed with bricks or concrete, the structures seemed to have been grown almost organically. Twisted vines of metal intertwined with smooth, glass-like surfaces, creating shapes that looked both beautiful and haunting. But now those shapes were fractured and decaying. Whoa, Lucas whispered, running his hand over a piece of debris. This stuff feels alive, or used to anyway. Emma snapped a photo with her tablet. It's incredible. Their architecture blended technology and nature. Too bad they destroyed both. While Emma documented their surroundings, Lucas wandered deeper into the ruins, searching for anything useful. He found piles of machinery scattered everywhere, some still sparking faintly, with residual energy. Most of it was beyond repair, but he managed to scavenge a few parts that might work with human tools. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the air. Everyone froze. From the shadows emerged one of the mutated creatures Zainara had warned them about. It resembled a large lizard, but its skin was patchy and oozing, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural red light. It hissed, bearing rows of jagged teeth. "Stay back," Zainara commanded, stepping forward protectively. She raised her hand and a shimmering barrier appeared between the group and the creature. The beast lunged at the barrier, snarling furiously, but it couldn't break through. Lucas backed away slowly, his heart pounding. Okay. Note to self. Avoid angry radioactive lizards. Emma swallowed hard. Let's finish up quickly and get out of here. Once the creature lost interest and slithered back into the shadows, the group hurried to gather what they could before heading back to the ship. By the time they returned, Lucas's toolbox was half full, and Emma's sample containers were brimming with dirt, water, and fragments of alien tech. Back aboard the ship, they reviewed their findings. Emma spread out the samples on a table, examining them under a microscope. "This soil is completely sterile," she said. "But there are traces of synthetic compounds, chemicals that shouldn't exist naturally. Whoever designed these must have prioritized efficiency over safety." Lucas tinkered with the scavenged parts, trying to piece together how they worked. "These machines look advanced, but they're falling apart. Looks like shortcuts were taken during manufacturing. Cheap materials, poor design, it's all starting to make sense." Zainara listened quietly, her expression troubled. "Our leaders demanded faster production, lower costs. They cared only for profit, not sustainability." Emma frowned. "So your planet didn't just die because of pollution. It died because of greed." "Yes," Zainara admitted softly. "And ignorance. We believed we could exploit our resources endlessly without consequence." Lucas set down his tools and looked at her. "Sounds familiar. Humans do the same thing, but maybe we can learn from your mistakes and fix ours while we're at it." Emma nodded. "If we can figure out what went wrong here, we might be able to prevent it from happening on Earth." Over the next few days, the team explored other parts of the planet, collecting data and studying the remnants of the alien civilization. Each new discovery painted a clearer picture of their downfall. Massive factories had pumped toxins into the air and water. Overfarming had depleted the soil. And when attempts were made to reverse the damage, corruption and incompetence had sabotaged those efforts. One evening, as they sat inside the ship reviewing their notes, Emma leaned back and sighed. "It's heartbreaking. You had so much potential. Your technology was amazing. You could have saved yourselves if you'd acted sooner." Zainara stared at her hands, which glowed faintly even in the dim light. "Perhaps, but regret does not undo the past." "No," Lucas agreed. "But it can teach us something. Back home we're facing the same problems. Climate change, deforestation, pollution. We know what's coming if we don't act. Seeing this place makes me realize how urgent it is." Emma nodded. "Exactly. If we can restore even part of this planet, it'll prove that change is possible. For them and for us." Zainara looked at them both, her glowing eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "You believe you can succeed where we failed?" "We have to try," Lucas said firmly. "Because if we don't, this won't just be your future, it'll be ours too." For the first time since arriving, Zainara allowed herself to feel a flicker of optimism. Maybe these humans, who came from a species equally flawed yet full of determination, could truly make a difference. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time in centuries there was a glimmer of hope for her people's lost world. Part 4. Days turned into weeks as Lucas, Emma, and the aliens worked tirelessly to understand the ruined planet. Each discovery brought new challenges but also small victories. They began testing ways to purify the toxic air and water, using a mix of human ingenuity and alien technology. Progress was slow, but it was progress nonetheless. One evening, after another long day of experiments, Emma sat in the ship's makeshift lab, poring over data logs. She had been analyzing samples from the planet's rivers and soil, looking for patterns that might explain how the toxins spread so quickly. As she scrolled through the information, something caught her eye, a series of encrypted files buried deep within the alien database. Curious, she called Lucas over. "Hey, look at this," she said, pointing to her tablet. "I think these are old records from when the planet started to collapse. Maybe we can learn more about what went wrong." Lucas leaned in, squinting at the screen. "Can you crack the encryption?" "I'm working on it," Emma replied. "Give me a few minutes." As she typed furiously, Zainara entered the room. Her translucent skin glowed faintly in the dim light, and her expression was unreadable. "What are you doing?" she asked, her telepathic voice calm but cautious. "We found some files," Lucas explained. "They might have clues about how your planet got like this. Thought it could help us figure out a solution." Zainara hesitated, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Those records, they are private. Best left undisturbed." Emma paused, glancing up at her. "Why? Are you worried about what we'll find?" "It is not my place to decide," Zainara said evasively. "But I warn you, some truths are painful." Emma exchanged a glance with Lucas before returning to her work. "We need to know. If we're going to fix this, we can't ignore the past." After a few more minutes, the encryption broke and the files opened. What they revealed shocked them both. The documents detailed meetings between alien leaders who had deliberately sabotaged efforts to heal their planet. Instead of addressing the environmental crisis, they had chosen to prioritize profits and maintain control over resources. One memo even described plans to suppress scientists who tried to sound the alarm. Emma's hands trembled as she read aloud. They knew exactly what was happening, and the end perhaps for humanity's as well. Part 5. Back on Earth, news of the mission spread like wildfire. At first it was just rumors, whispers in small towns and online forums about aliens landing in Ohio, and humans trying to repair their ruined planet. But soon, satellite images and eyewitness accounts confirmed the story, sparking debates across the globe. Some people were inspired by humanity's willingness to help another species, while others viewed the mission as reckless meddling. Politicians argued over whether the government should intervene, and scientists debated the ethics of tampering with an alien ecosystem. Amidst the chaos, Mia Carter stepped forward. A tech entrepreneur known for her innovative solutions to environmental problems, Mia had built a reputation for thinking outside the box. When she heard about Lucas and Emma's efforts on the alien world, she immediately reached out, offering her support. Her company specialized in cutting-edge tools designed to purify air and water, technologies that could be adapted for use on the toxic planet. Mia arrived in Maplewood unannounced, driving a sleek electric car loaded with equipment. She found Lucas and Emma preparing for another trip back to the alien ship. "You two are making headlines," she said with a grin, introducing herself. "Thought you might need some backup." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Backup? From who?" "Me," Mia replied, holding up a small device. "This is a portable filtration system I've been working on. It can clean even the nastiest pollutants. Figured it might come in handy." Emma's eyes lit up. "That's incredible. We've been struggling to neutralize the toxins in the soil and water. This could save us weeks of trial and error." "Exactly," Mia said. "And I've got more where that came from. Let me tag along. I want to see this alien world for myself." Lucas hesitated, glancing at Emma. They hadn't planned on bringing anyone else into the mission, but Mia's enthusiasm, and her technology, was hard to resist. "All right," he said finally. "But don't say we didn't warn you. That place isn't exactly friendly. Mia waved off his concern. I've dealt with worse, lead the way. The journey back to the alien planet felt different with Mia aboard. Her energy was infectious and she spent most of the trip peppering Zainara, Kyle, and Vren with questions about their culture and technology. Though Kyle remained wary of her presence, Vren warmed up slightly, showing her how certain alien devices worked. By the time they landed, Mia was already brainstorming ways to combine human and alien tech into hybrid systems. Their first task was testing Mia's filtration system. Emma led the group to a nearby river choked with acidic liquid, its surface shimmering ominously. The air above it was thick with vapor, forcing everyone to keep their masks on. Mia set up the device near the water's edge, explaining how it functioned. It uses nanofilters to break down chemicals at a molecular level, she said. Should work on anything organic or alien-made. As the machine hummed to life, Lucas crossed his arms skeptically. Hope you're right. We don't have time for failures. Minutes later, clear water began trickling out of the system. Emma dipped a sensor into the stream, her face lighting up with excitement. It's working. The acidity levels are dropping fast, Mia grinned. Told you. Even Kale looked impressed, though he quickly masked his reaction. Your technology is efficient, he admitted grudgingly. Zainara nodded approvingly. Perhaps there is wisdom in combining our strengths. Encouraged by the success, the team decided to tackle one of the larger challenges, reviving the barren soil. Using samples Emma had collected earlier, Mia modified the filtration system to target specific compounds in the dirt. Meanwhile, Lucas scavenged parts from old alien machinery, piecing together a rudimentary irrigation system. Together they created a prototype capable of delivering purified water and nutrients directly to the ground. When they tested it on a patch of cracked earth, the results were astonishing. Within hours, tiny green shoots pushed through the surface, defying the harsh conditions. It wasn't much, a few sprigs of grass, but it was proof that life could return to the desolate planet. This is amazing, Emma whispered, kneeling beside the new growth. If we scale this up, we could restore entire regions. Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. We'll need more resources, though, and probably some help from Earth. Lucas frowned. Help from Earth means dealing with governments and corporations. You really think they'll play nice? They won't have a choice, Mia replied confidently. Once they see what we're doing here, they'll want in. The question is whether we let them take control or stay ahead of them. Despite their progress, tensions continued to simmer within the group. Kyle remained suspicious of Mia, questioning her motives and accusing her of seeking fame rather than genuine restoration. You humans are all the same, he muttered during one heated argument. You care only for yourselves. Mia didn't back down. Maybe some of us do, but not all. Look around. You're still alive because we're helping. Try being grateful instead of paranoid. Kyle opened his mouth to retort, but Zainara intervened. Enough, she said firmly. Arguing will not heal this world. If we cannot trust each other, then what hope do we have? Her words silenced the room, leaving everyone to reflect on their shared goal. Slowly, the team refocused, their efforts determined to push past their differences. As days turned into weeks, the landscape began to change. Rivers flowed cleaner. Patches of green spread across the barren ground and the air grew slightly less toxic. Small creatures, once mutated and hostile, began to appear healthier, their glowing red eyes fading to a softer hue. The planet wasn't fully restored, but it was no longer dying. One evening, as the team gathered inside the ship to review their progress, Zainara spoke quietly. You have done what we believed impossible. You have given us hope not just for this world but for ourselves. Lucas smiled faintly. We're not done yet, still a lot of work ahead. But we're getting closer, Emma added. Every step proves that cooperation works better than greed or fear. Mia nodded. And maybe, just maybe, this will inspire change back on Earth too. If we can fix this place, why not ours? For the first time in centuries, Zainara allowed herself to truly believe in the possibility of renewal, not just for her people's lost home, but for humanity's future as well. Despite the challenges ahead, the team knew they were on the right path. Together, they had shown that even broken worlds could heal, with enough determination, ingenuity, and trust. Part 6. The mission was far from easy, and as weeks turned into months, the challenges only grew harder. The team faced setbacks that tested their resolve and pushed them to their limits. Toxic storms swept across the alien planet without warning, destroying equipment and forcing everyone to take cover inside the ship. The acidic rains ate away at their tools, and the strange creatures that roamed the toxic wilderness became bolder, attacking whenever they ventured too far from camp. One particularly fierce storm caught them off guard. Emma had been collecting soil samples near a patch of newly sprouted vegetation when the sky darkened abruptly. Thick clouds rolled in, swirling with ominous green and purple hues. Within minutes, the wind howled, and sharp droplets of acidic rain began pelting the ground. Lucas shouted for her to run back to the ship, but she hesitated, unwilling to leave behind the valuable data she had gathered. "I can't lose these samples," she yelled over the noise, clutching her container tightly. "Emma, forget the samples, just move," Lucas shouted back, sprinting toward her. Before she could react, a mutated creature, a hulking beast with jagged claws, emerged from the shadows drawn by the commotion. Its glowing red eyes locked onto Emma, and it charged with terrifying speed. Without thinking, Lucas grabbed a piece of scrap metal lying nearby and hurled it at the creature, distracting it long enough for him to grab Emma's arm and pull her, toward safety. By the time they reached the ship, both were soaked and breathing heavily. Zinara and Mia rushed to meet them at the entrance, their expressions tense with worry. "Are you hurt?" Zinara asked, scanning Emma for injuries. "I'm fine," Emma replied, though her voice trembled. She held up the sample container, which was miraculously intact. "Got the data." Lucas shook his head, exasperated but relieved. "You're crazy, you know that?" Emma managed a weak smile. "Yeah, but we've got results." Despite the danger, moments like this strengthened their bond. Each close call reminded them why they were there, to make a difference no matter the cost. Yet the constant pressure began to wear on everyone. Tempers flared more often, and disagreements became harder to resolve. Kale, in particular, grew increasingly frustrated with the humans' methods. He accused them of prioritizing flashy experiments over practical solutions. "Your machines are impressive," he said one evening during a heated argument, "but they will not last. This planet is harsh, it will destroy anything fragile." Mia bristled at his tone. "Fragile? Our tech has already cleaned rivers and revived plants. What have you done besides complain?" "We warned you of the risks," Kyle shot back. "Yet you ignore our advice and act as if you know better." Zinara stepped between them, her glowing form casting a soft light in the dim room. "Enough," she said firmly. "Arguing solves nothing. If we cannot work together, then all of this, our efforts, our sacrifices, will be for nothing." Her words silenced the group, though the tension lingered. Later that night, Lucas found Kale sitting alone outside the ship, staring at the stars. Against his better judgment. Part 7. The team's progress on the alien planet had reached a critical stage. Rivers flowed clearer, patches of green spread wider, and the air became less toxic with each passing day. But just as hope began to take root, betrayal struck, a blow that threatened to undo everything they had worked for. It started subtly. Zinara, who had always been open and honest with the humans, began acting strangely. She spent long hours alone in the ship's communication chamber, speaking in hushed tones to someone on the other end. Her glowing eyes, once filled with trust and determination, now carried a shadow of doubt. Lucas noticed the change first, but dismissed it as stress. After all, leading such a challenging mission would weigh heavily on anyone. One evening, as the team reviewed their latest data, Kale stormed into the room, his expression furious. "She has been lying to us," he exclaimed, pointing accusingly at Zinara. "She has been sending false reports back to our leaders." The room fell silent. Everyone turned to Zinara, who stood frozen, her hands trembling slightly. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mia broke the silence. What is he talking about? Zinara hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. Finally, she sighed and admitted the truth. I have been transmitting updates to our government, she said quietly. But I altered them. I portrayed your efforts as reckless and dangerous, claiming you seek to exploit our world rather than restore it. Emma stared at her, stunned. Why? Why would you do that? I was afraid, Zinara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Our leaders are cautious, suspicious of outsiders. If they knew the truth, that humans were succeeding where we failed, they might see it as a threat. They might order us to leave, or worse. Lucas clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. You didn't trust us. After everything we've done, you still thought we'd sabotage you? It wasn't about trust, Zinara said quickly. It was about survival. My people are desperate. We cannot afford another failure. Mia shook her head, disappointment etched on her face. So instead of risking honesty, you chose to deceive us. Do you realize how much damage this could cause? Before Zinara could respond, the ship's communication panel lit up with an urgent message. A holographic projection appeared showing a group of stern-looking aliens seated around a table. Their leader, a tall figure with piercing eyes, addressed Zinara directly. Commander Zinara, your reports indicate the human presence poses a significant risk to our restoration efforts. As such, we have decided to evacuate the operation immediately. No, Zinara cried, stepping forward. Please listen. The humans are not a threat. They are helping us succeed. The leader's expression hardened. Your earlier transmission suggested otherwise. Until we can verify the situation, all personnel are ordered to abandon the planet and return home. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. Kale and Vren exchanged worried glances while Lucas and Emma looked at each other in disbelief. All their hard work, all the progress they had made, was about to be abandoned because of Zinara's lies. This can't happen, Emma said firmly, breaking the silence. We can't let them shut this down. But what can we do? Vren asked. Our orders are clear. Lucas stepped forward, his jaw set with determination. We fight for it. We show them the truth. How? Kale demanded. They won't. Listen to us. Then we make them listen, Lucas replied. Turning to Zinara, he added, You owe us that much. If you want to fix this, you need to stand up to your leaders, not just for us, but for your people. Zinara hesitated, torn between duty and guilt. Finally, she nodded. Very well, I will disobey their orders. But if I do this, I risk everything, including my life. You're already risking everything by running away, Mia said gently. At least this way, you'll be fighting for something worth saving. With renewed resolve, Zinara activated the communication panel again, overriding the evacuation order. Leaders of the council, she began, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. I must correct my previous reports. The humans are not a threat, they are allies. Together we have begun to heal our world. Abandoning this mission would mean surrendering to despair. Please give us a chance to prove that cooperation is possible. The council members exchanged skeptical glances, but before they could respond, Lucas stepped into view. Listen to her, he said firmly. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, sure, but we're learning. And we're willing to put in the work to help fix what's broken. Isn't that what you want for your people? Emma joined him, holding up a tablet displaying the latest data. Look at these results. Cleaner water, healthier soil, signs of life returning. This isn't destruction, it's restoration. Give us more time, and we'll show you even better results. For a long moment, the council remained silent. Then, the leader leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Very well, he said finally. We will grant you a temporary extension. But know this. If your actions endanger our world further, there will be consequences. The transmission cut off, leaving the team breathless with relief. Zinara sank into a chair, her body trembling with exhaustion. Thank you, she whispered, for believing in me. In us. Lucas placed a hand on her shoulder. We're in this together, remember? Now let's finish what we started. Over the next few days, the team threw themselves into their work with renewed energy. Knowing they were on borrowed time, they pushed harder than ever, expanding their efforts to cover larger areas. Rivers flowed cleaner, forests began to regrow, and the air smelled fresher with each passing day. Even the mutated creatures seemed less hostile, adapting to the improving environment. Kale and Vren, though still cautious, began to soften toward the humans. They joined forces with Lucas and Mia to repair ancient alien machinery, combining their knowledge with human ingenuity to create hybrid systems that worked better than either species could achieve alone. Emma continued her research, documenting every step of the process so they could share their findings with both Earth and the alien government. As the planet healed, so did the bonds between the team members. Trust, once fragile, grew stronger, with each shared victory. They weren't just repairing a world, they were building a bridge between two species, proving that cooperation could overcome even the deepest divides. One evening, as they gathered to watch the sunset, a sight that had become a symbol of hope, Zinara spoke softly. "You have taught me something important," she said, her glowing eyes reflecting the fading light. "Fear and mistrust only lead to failure. But courage and unity, they create possibilities we never imagined." Lucas smiled faintly. "And maybe we've learned something too. Back on Earth, we're facing the same problems. Seeing this place come back to life gives us hope that we can turn things around." Emma nodded. "It's proof that cooperation works better than fear or greed. If humans and aliens can work together, then maybe we can find a way to fix our own world." Mia grinned. "Who knows? Maybe one day we'll look back on this and realize it was the start of something bigger. Something that changes everything for both our species." For the first time in centuries, Zainara allowed herself to truly believe in the possibility of renewal. The road ahead was still long and uncertain, but for now they had taken the first step. Together they had shown that even broken worlds could heal, with enough determination, ingenuity, and trust. Part 8. The final stages of the restoration effort were grueling, but the team worked with a sense of purpose that kept them going. Every day brought new challenges, storms that threatened to undo their progress, equipment failures that required quick fixes, and lingering doubts from both humans and aliens about whether they could truly succeed. But through it all, they pushed forward, driven by the belief that what they were doing mattered, not just for the alien planet but for the future of both species. Lucas spent most of his time repairing and upgrading the ancient alien machinery scattered across the landscape. He had grown fond of tinkering with the strange devices, finding ways to blend human tools with alien tech. With Mia's help, he developed hybrid systems that purified water faster and irrigated larger areas. "It's like giving this place a second chance," he said one evening as they tested a new filtration system near a river. "Kinda makes you feel like we're making up for past mistakes." Mia nodded, her eyes reflecting the glow of the setting sun. "Yeah, and maybe it'll inspire people back on Earth to do the same. If we can fix this world, why not ours?" Emma, meanwhile, focused on documenting every step of the process. She collected soil samples, recorded data on plant growth, and studied how the mutated creatures adapted to the cleaner environment. Her notes filled page after page, each entry a testament to the planet's gradual recovery. One morning, she stood in awe as a small bird-like creature landed near her feet. AET, sign that life was returning in unexpected ways. "This is incredible," she whispered, snapping photos. "We're actually bringing this place back to life." Zinara watched the humans work with a mix of gratitude and admiration. Their determination reminded her of her own people long ago. Before, fear and greed had torn them apart. She began to see hope where once there had been only despair. Together the team tackled the largest challenge yet, reviving an entire region that had once been a thriving city. The ruins were unstable and toxic vapors still lingered, but they refused to give up. Using Emma's research and Lucas's engineering skills,